Hey everyone, welcome back to our YouTube channel, Greg's Restorations. Today we are driving a 1969 Ford Mustang Mach 1. This was a 2-year restoration that we undertook about 2 years ago. It was a full restoration. Did not start out as a full restoration. We started doing mechanical maintenance on it first, and then as we got into the car, it just turned into a bigger project. And as all the projects do, the customer gets excited and wants to do more and wants to, make the car the vehicle of his dreams. The vehicle came in and everything was kind of stripped apart. We started doing mechanical maintenance first. We took the engine and transmission out of the car, put a painless wiring harness in it. Everything underneath the car was restored. We used a asphalt rubberized undercoating on the underside of the body. Kind of a period correct look, and the product's pretty awesome. It acts as like a sound detonator, and it looks like it was done factory with the car. On the bodywork on this car, it was pretty straight. It did have a lot of, hidden gremlins from over the years, previous body shops working on it. It'd been painted once before, and the car was like a light green. Then it was painted red. The customer really didn't like the red, so we went with a factory black. This car was stripped all the way down to steel. Any panel that could have been taken off was media blasted down to bare steel. A lot of cracks, a lot of extra drilled holes that were, from old balances underneath the car, stress cracks. But everything was brought down to bare steel, bodywork, dent repaired, sheet metal repaired, and then we go into our bodywork stages. So everything was etch primed, and then we use a polyester primer. It's a very high build 2K primer that just gets our lines and everything even better when we go to block the car and reprime. So this car was blocked and then reprimed, so it was a few stages of primer just because we knew the car was going to go black. Everything was jammed, all the insides, everything was seam sealed, assembly, and then paint. All of our products we buy are from Sherwin-Williams Automotive, all their undercoats and base coats and clear coats. So this car is sprayed with all of their products. So big shout out to Sherwin-Williams. They're always helping us out doing stuff. This car is painted Raven Black. That's the code you would have had for a black Mustang of 1969. So it's not the original color to this car, but it's an original color. For about 4 coats of clear on this car. We did not wet sand and buff this car just for budget reasons. Eventually the customer is going to have us wet sand above it just so it's like super glass, but it's super presentable for a driver. You can just tell by the pictures how clean and how flat this car is, but it has a little bit of orange peel. We're only human. We can't spray like robots. We got a really good spray equipment here. Our spray booth's only a couple years old. A lot of the flat black stuff on this car was sprayed with SEM Hot Rod Black. So the rear wing, the rear louvers on the glass, front hood scoop, and the engine bay was all done with SEM Hot Rod Black. It's actually perfect for this application for everything on it. And it's a 2K product, so it's going to hold up to the elements. The engine in this car is a 351 Windsor that we rebuilt in-house. The engine has a lot of aftermarket goodies on it. It's sporting a set of Edelbrock E-Force aluminum heads, Edelbrock ProFlow 4 EFI system, paired up with a Holley Sniper EFI fuel tank setup, Manley intake and exhaust valves, Comp Cam hydraulic flat tappet camshaft, Maladon oil pan, and a high volume oil pump. For the electrical in this car, we went with a painless wiring harness. Painless has been a company that's been around for a long time, and they make direct plug-in systems for these cars. For the transmission in this car, we went with a TCI Street Fighter C6 3-speed automatic transmission. The transmission is I would say, built transmission with a stage 2 shift kit in it. For the rear differential in this car, we went with a Ford factory 9-inch rear axle with 325 gears and a PowerTrax Posi locker. For the suspension in this car, we went with Global West upper and lower tubular control arms. We went with factory springs and factory rear leaf springs to kind of keep a factory stance. We did Corny adjustable shocks in the front with all polyurethane bushings throughout the car. This Mustang also has a upgraded stainless steel 2.5-inch
dual exhaust system from Pipes Performance, as well as a Unisteer upgraded power steering rack assembly.
During the restoration of this Mustang, we needed to replace the brake lines in this whole vehicle. One of the companies that we used is Classic Tube out of New York. They manufacture so many different lines of brake lines for different cars. They're like the leading manufacturer of pre-bent lines. They offer an OE steel and stainless, and they don't just do brake lines either. They do fuel lines and any other pre-bent tubing for emissions needs. Another shout out to Retro Manufacturing and Retro Sound. They helped us out with a radio system for this vehicle, head unit, speakers, everything we needed to run the vehicle of this. Modern sound with a retro look. It's so awful to hop in a car and see like a new Panasonic or a new Sony radio with all the lights and stuff going. It just doesn't fit the build. So Retro Sound offers a good kit. The wheels on this vehicle, we went with a Magnum 500. They are a reproduction wheel that you could have got back in the 70s. Customer wanted to keep this looking, period correct, and kind of like something that he wanted growing up. We went with 15 by 7s on the front and 15 by 8s in the rear, just to kind of give it a little more beefy look in the rear. For the tires, we went on this, went with your generic BF Goodrich Radial TA, and for the front, we went 235 60R15, and for the rear, we went with 255 60R15, so it is a little wider tire in the rear, give it kind of that muscle car stance. Another cool touch of this build of this car is we did all smoked glass throughout the vehicle. So originally this car would have had a green tint, and we were able to order all smoked glass. So all the glass in this car has like a 30% tint on it with no film, so the inside film could never scratch, and it actually looks darker than it actually is because the interior of this car is black. So this car is black on black on black. This color is black, so everything on this car gets super hot. So this car probably runs 5 to 10 degrees hotter just because of the color of the car. One of the things in the future that we're going to be doing on this car is we're going to be making the hood scoop functional. On this car, it has a hood scoop on it, but it's actually not cut for it. We're doing resto mods here and stuff like that. We're trying to keep these cars cool, so it just seems like every summer it keeps getting hotter and hotter to run these cars. So, in the future, when the customer saves up some more pennies, we're going to cut the hood and make it functional, because we were running into some overheating issues with this car. Just the Mustang engine bay is really tight. Clear into the headers, everything was just super tight. Another feature we tried to do with this car was aftermarket coolant from VP Racing. It's a good product. It dropped the temperature about 10 degrees, and the color's purple, so it's not your generic green. So the product does work. It's actually been helping him being able to drive this car, make it a little bit more friendly. FOMO Co headlight, so that means Ford Motor Company. So all the lights on this car are stamped with those logos. For the interior of this Ford Mustang, we went with pretty much a factory spec restoration on the interior. Black carpet with the red pocket on the floor underneath the floor mats. We also went with black seats with the red stripe on it. That was, the Mach 1 package that this had. The black on black would have had these little red strips on it. Most of the interior was restored in-house here, except for the seat upholstery. We used our friends up at Inside Out Customs in Lunenburg. We installed the carpet, we installed the seats, removed of the seats. A lot of prepping and painting of parts as well, and detailing and cleaning stuff up. Black is the hardest color to keep clean. It's just, you look at this thing and it scratches. Like we've cleaned it, I don't know, 5 times this week just for photo shoots and video shoots. So see a customer coming in to see it, so it's fun. It's just the color's tough, but black is beautiful. But this is a factory air car, so this car has factory air conditioning. Pretty cool option for 1969. Not all the cars came with factory AC, so seeing a car that has it is pretty awesome. But it works great. It's about 80 degrees outside, and it's nice and cool in here. It's going to be a hot day today. This car runs hot, So yesterday was 95 degrees outside, and we were well over 210 degrees on the thermostat on the dash. So, but muscle cars, they run hot in hot temperatures, you know, that's what they are. We were driving around yesterday with the heat on just to make sure that this thing wasn't gonna overheat on us. And it was kind of brutal, but you know, these are the things we do to drive these cars and make sure that they're good for the customer. We have just around 300 miles on it, test miles. Aftermarket parts aren't the greatest, so we'll drive something for 50 miles and have a rear wheel seal start leaking, or have a transmission gasket start leaking, or you know, a little issue with a pulley that we put on the engine. It just we have to test these cars 300 to 500 miles before they go to the customer, because we don't want to have an issue when they pick it up. That is the hardest thing about one of these restorations, is having the customer understand that we got to drive your brand new car before you do 300 miles. You know, and at this point they are so eager to get this thing, and everybody's asking about when to pick it up. But thank God this customer was super understanding. Everything we've done on this car is better than factory spec, if not better. I would consider this car a resto mod just because of all the upgraded suspension, upgraded engine, upgraded transmission, EFI system on this car. Everything about this car is better. Drives like a brand new car. It's stiff. It drives on the road straight. It's got plenty of power. Estimating about 350 to 400 horse. We do not have the Enjo dynoed, but eventually we're going to get down to the dyno and see what this car is pulling for numbers. But it gets out of its own way pretty good. So it's rowdy for sure. The customer's going to love it. This vehicle is a local car. I believe it was from Massachusetts probably its whole life. I don't know a lot of the history of where the car came from, but this car is a Massachusetts car. The customer lives in Massachusetts, so you know, a lot of the other YouTube people were asking, like, do you actually restore any cars from your state? Because everything we do is, you know, it's going to California, it's going to Florida, it's going to South Carolina, but this is actually a local car. We're going to be seeing this car a lot at local shows. Yeah, we're going to be seeing this car a lot. It's going to be at a lot of local events, and he's just a few towns over from us, so it's going to be awesome to see this car representing our shop locally, because a lot of our projects are shipped all over the country. One of our favorite shooting spots up in Hardwick. It's just a really nice area to drive the car, and there's nobody really to bother us. The owners of this car actually grew up on that street. This car, just this car parked in a parking lot, just advertises for Ford. Everybody just, oh, what kind of car is that? It's a Ford Mustang. Oh my God. And it's just advertisement for Ford. They did something awesome back in the late 60s and early 70s with these cars. The Ford Mustang Mach 1 came out in 1968 and went all the way through 1978. In my opinion, this 1969 model is probably one of the nicest Mach 1s you could buy. The most desirable, I think, is this early 1969 model. They also came out in 2003, 2004, and 2021. Ford had brief Mach 1 packages you could buy, but they're nothing like the early muscle car. The Mustang came out in the early 60s. Early production 1964 and a half is when the Mustang came out. We actually have a early production Mustang here. It's kind of cool to see both of these cars here and see the major differences on them. The Mach 1 actually crushed the sale of the GT model that they came out in the mid 60s as well. It's a pretty cool car. It's got a lot of cool styling points on it. You can tell the difference between a regular GT package and a Mach 1. You know, they also had GT 500s, and they had a few different other models as well that were pretty crazy. But this was a performance package car that was sold to, you know, the regular consumer. Big thanks to the crew at the shop. Everybody had worked super hard on this. I personally myself didn't work on this car alone. We had a whole crew of guys working on this car between Ashton, Tony, and Jay. It takes more than one person to work on these builds. factory automatic car, so it's got a Ford automatic 3-speed transmission in it. It's actually kind of nice to not have a manual for once. Actually just get in the car and drive and not think. I wasn't sure if I was going to like it or not, just because when you get in a muscle car, you just think 4-speed manual transmission. It actually drives really nice. The shop's been a little insane lately, just after the 4th of July, and we are literally, every single project at the shop is virtually leaving. So it's kind of a tough little moment. We're just getting all these cars finished up, and virtually they're all leaving next week. So we're gonna have some well-earned time off for a week, and then we're gonna be starting probably 4 to 5 brand new projects that we have in storage. If you're ever looking to have something restored by us, give us a huge heads up on it, because we are, sometimes a year to 2 years out before we can even start a restoration. Service work's a little different. We have a tech that does mostly just strictly service work, so we can try to get you in with a reasonable amount of time. Very time-consuming job, and we only have so much help. We can only fit so many people in the shop. Thanks for watching our video, and stay tuned for more.